This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com.
Alpha Natural Resources. Consistent with its Running Right process, Alpha is an energy company committed to being a leader in mine safety and an environmental steward. We fuel progress around the world. More information at alphanr.com.
Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, on Midlothian Turnpike in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Taking it to the streets and helping our community. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Information at vachamber.com.
I just received a letter from a student who thanked me for instilling the love of math in him. That's why I teach.
Brought to you by the Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond. Back last August, Governor McAuliffe announced that he had someone who was going to be an adoption champion, Deborah Johnston, and we thank you for being back on. You talked with us just a short time after you had begun working in that position, a volunteer position we might say, because you have your own career, your own business, but someone who experienced adoption and Governor McAuliffe said would be a great adoption champion. So we appreciate having you back on to tell us where we are now as a Commonwealth in adoptions. And we're also glad to have Ericca with us, Facetti, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yes, very.
Executive Director of the Connecting Hearts, the Deborah J. Johnston Foundation that's working on the same issue. So appreciate having both of you on. Deborah, let's start with you. And tell our viewers about what's happening right now in the Commonwealth. And before you start, I will tell them, and you all can emphasize it too, that the month of May is National Foster Care Month. Yes. It's not just Virginia, it's national. So we're glad to have you on during this very special month too. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, David, for having us on today. We have many things to share, and certainly in my role, I've learned a whole lot about Virginia and its practices and how many children need homes and things that we can do to improve the situation. So I'm glad to be here and share that today and to just hallmark this month as awareness of we need foster parents everywhere.
Yes. And Ericca, start us off telling something about the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. So Connecting Hearts is doing various things across the state of Virginia, but one of the things that we are really working on is connecting the dots between private foundations, private organizations, Department of Social Services, as well as nonprofits throughout the state to ensure that we're all working efficiently and collaboratively together. As you mentioned, it is National Foster Care Month, and alone in Virginia we have over 4,500 children that are in foster care at this time.
4,500?
Over 4,500, and those numbers change obviously on a daily basis, and out of that number we have 750 kids that are ready for adoption. They need homes in our own backyard, so we're really trying to push that message of if you are interested in being a foster parent, contact your local Department of Social Services to see how you can do that, as well as if you're interested in adopting one of the 750 children that are available.
And in addition to their contacting the local department, that's the best place to start. Mm-hmm. We're going to put up on the screen the web address for the Virginia Department of Social Services. In fact, I think the address is one that will take them immediately to the page that has to do regarding foster parents and regarding adoption, so they'll get statewide information there.
Wonderful. And when you're visiting the Department of Social Services website, there are photos of available children in Virginia. There's not all of the 750 children up there, but that's something that we're also working on, is getting all of those pictures up there so you can see the available children in Virginia. So if you are looking for a child that's a particular age, or a male or a female, you'll be able to kind of scroll through, see the picture, see the child's age, as well as a little bio on who they are and what they're looking for in a family.
Debbie, your passion of this in part stems back to your own experiences, and tell our viewers, if you will, about your experience with adoption.
I am one of the lucky ones. I was adopted into a family and ended up having 5 siblings. So I want this for everybody. And I've done a lot of visiting across the state of older children that never got adopted. And I do want to point out that half of the children available are under the age of 12. I think there is a myth that they're all older children with disabilities. This is far from the truth. These are young kids, some of them, that need homes. And they're taken out of their homes for reasons way beyond their control. Kids do not ask to come in the world. We bring them in the world. And unfortunately, sometimes they end up with parents that didn't come with the right guidebook to be a parent, and social services has to intervene and take them out of a home and find a suitable home where they can have a full life. Like somebody like me with siblings and a happy family, and we had a farm and horses and all that, and lots of love. Not a lot of money, but lots of love. Today, I really want to talk about, too, that if every single church in Virginia would support one of our children and go out in their flock and find a family for that child, we would have all of our children adopted. So today, I want to reach out to every priest, every preacher, every rabbi, every minister, and ask for your help. We know from statistics that adoption happens from faith-based people. So we know if we go across the state and we really knock on the door of our churches and they help, all of our kids will have homes.
Oh, that's a powerful message that you have, because if they all got involved, there wouldn't be enough children to be adopted, would there?
You are absolutely right. So I'm hoping there are preachers listening, ministers listening, rabbis listening, and will hear me today and think about how can we support a child and go in our flock and find a family for these kids.
You know, reaching back into my past, and I'm not sure if it even still exists, I do recall that the Baptist General Convention, the Convention of African American Baptist Churches, at one time, and may still have, had a real initiative toward adoption. I'm hoping they still do, and it's something too that other church organizations, whether they're a diocese or a conference or an association, whatever name they go by, if they would find some way to help promote both foster care and adoption.
Yes, yes. I'm really reaching out to that target. And maybe the Rotary Club too. They're a good group of people.
And how does this then connect with the work that the foundation is doing?
So Debbie and the foundation work hand in hand. A lot of our speaking engagements, a lot of our events, Debbie is there as the Virginia Adoption Champion, which is wonderful because it brings everything to that next level for us. But we're working in tangent across the state with the Department of Social Services to bring together collaboration groups. So as Debbie said with the church initiative, that won't just be Connecting Hearts working on that. We're going to have several other partners around the state helping us with those efforts. So we truly believe by coming together, we can do the most collaboratively for these kids. So we've even been promoting some of our partner organizations on television because we feel as though everyone is doing so many wonderful things, and we really want to let the community know about these other initiatives that are going on. And we're not just looking out for Connecting Hearts, we are actually promoting other awareness events for other foundations or smaller things that we can do for foster kids. So for example, we're working with 3 organizations right now that are getting bags together. So when the children are taken out of their homes and brought into foster care, they will be provided with a bag that has toiletries, that maybe has a stuffed animal and a blanket, because so often these kids are taken out of their homes with just the clothes on their back, and they may not have the things that they need or the things that are comfortable to them. And we also think it'll be a nice way for the Department of Social Services to take that teddy bear out of the trunk and give it to that young child who's confused and who's crying because he doesn't understand what's going on. So those are some small things that, you know, we're looking to the community to help us with, and Debbie as adoption champion is really putting herself out there and really asking the state of Virginia for help. So it's been a really wonderful message and a really great partnership, and obviously in her role, I mean, what could be more perfect than the foundation to be able to really take her efforts to the next level, because she's only one person and she can't be everywhere. So.
Yes. So you mentioned age-wise, and we do have some pictures that we'll put up, but they're just a few of the many pictures that can be found. And while we won't be identifying these children by name as they go up, but while we're talking, there'll be some pictures of some of the ones that are available for adoption. But I want to go back for just a moment. You said that age-wise, contrary to what maybe most of us might think, they're not all 13, 14, 15, 16, almost aging out 18-year-olds.
You know, there are infants and toddlers taken out of neglectful situations. So I want my viewership to hear that. If you've got it fixed in your head, these are all older kids or disabled kids, you're wrong. There are younger ones. In fact, half of those are younger. And it's just a myth that I want to spell out on your show so the viewers hear it.
Right. And even for those, whatever number there might be that are disabled, you and I, we know families and parents who welcome disabled children.
Yes.
And so there may be some with special needs, and they need some extra special parenting along the way, but there's someone out there for them.
Yes. And don't we know all kids are God's kids, regardless of if they're disabled, old, young, or what color they are. And there again, David, I'm reaching out to the churches because we know it's faith-based people that help these kids.
Well, and the ones who do the foster care and adoption, I would suppose they come in all ages as well. They're not all Ericca's age, or your age, or my age. They're a mixture of ages. Some of them may be grandparent types, and others are younger. So if anyone is all concerned, they ought to know that age doesn't disqualify them. They can't be, I'm sure they have to be adults, but they can't be too young, and they can't be too old.
You know, my grandmother, I think about her a lot when I do this role. She lived to be 96, and she literally helped raise 4 generations of kids. And I am totally convinced that my grandmother stayed with that path and had her energy. I have a picture of her swinging in a swing when she's 94. But her passion was to babysit, to take care of kids. She was all about it. So I don't think you could be too old. You know, as long as you can get around and be protective and loving. The loving is what these kids need. You're not going to be too old.
Well, that's an encouragement. I wish we had her picture, because I will say I saw it, and what a delightful picture of her in that swing.
Yes.
Delightful picture. And particularly with Mother's Day just being recently passed here in the month of May, great time to have her picture available for those of us to see.
You know, she was like my second mother, and she taught me a lot. And grandmothers can be wonderful foster parents, and I really want your viewership to hear that. Because I would imagine there's a lot of seniors out there that probably have a home, probably have time on their hands, probably have big hearts, that they have something in there for kids. And I'm reaching out to those people too.
You know, last August, when the Governor McAuliffe appointed you, in that news release, he talked about the previous year having been a very successful year and talked about goals. I would think the extremely challenging thing is that if in this calendar year 750 or so were adopted, that just means there are others coming into the system the next year. So I don't want to say it's a never-ending problem, but it's a never-ending challenge.
Yes. Because every day, a child that's not in the right setting, that is abused or neglected, is social services called. So you're right, it's ongoing. It is an ongoing process.
Yeah. So what's the next move in the efforts that you have undertaken for the Connecting Hearts Foundation?
Absolutely. Well, we have a lot going on this year. We have Debbie's schedule filled as adoption champion through the month of November, to be quite honest with you. So we are really pushing the awareness piece as much as we can and the collaborative efforts, because we find the more people that we speak with, they're not realizing that it is such a big issue in their own backyard. They don't realize how many kids need to be fostered or need to be adopted. So it's really that word of mouth of letting them know that this is a problem and we can fix it. Because if you do look at best practices of some states that have turned things around, maybe have done some reform actions, there is a way to fix this problem. It's not going to happen overnight. It may not happen while Debbie's still Virginia adoption champion, but it will happen hopefully within the next 5 years. There are steps that we can start taking now to really stop the problem in its steps. For example, when we're taking the kids out of the homes, if we can place them back in the homes by providing that family with appropriate resources and education, and also working with the child on resources and education, we may be able to put them back in their homes. Or we may be able to find a kinship relationship. As Debbie said, you know, with her grandmother, sometimes the best people in your family to be able to take that child is someone who's related to them. And there may be a loving family out there who has never met the child, but I talk to a lot of adoptive moms, and I love when they celebrate the gotcha day when they took the child home, and that's the day that I got you. And they have necklaces with the dates, and they're very passionate and very proud, and they always tell their kids, you grew in my heart, not in my stomach. So there are these great parents out there who are maybe thinking about this but don't know where to get started, because it can be quite an overwhelming process and a long process. So you really have to know what resources you need to take to be able to get involved in foster care or get involved in adoption. So that's one of our main goals, is really the awareness and the message of here's a problem we have and how are we as a state, as Virginians, going to fix it.
Now, you mentioned near the beginning of what you were saying, and quite a powerful message, that an effort of trying to place the child or the children back in the home with support, that seems like it's such an important challenge to undertake, because not everyone who, I'm sure, whose children or children are taken from them really wants to get rid of the child, but they're unable to function as they are. So I think that to have some way of providing them support and see if it can work out within the home where they were born.
Absolutely. And we do, in the state of Virginia, provide the parents with an entire year. The Department of Social Services does keep the child in foster care situation in anticipation that hopefully we can send the child back home. And then for the next year, they look for a family member that may be able to take the child as well. So those efforts are in place, and in some parts of the state, it's working really well. But as you can imagine, in areas like Richmond, it can be a little bit more challenging because there are a lot more kids, for example, in this area than maybe in Giles County. So I think we have to look at the state in different pockets and see what's working well in other areas, but also think about the region that we're in and know that it may not be a unified practice across all different areas of the state of Virginia.
When yes, Debbie.
Rural areas seem to do better about taking care of their own. The adoption rate is higher there. It's like the neighborhood comes together, whereas inner cities, we don't do as well because we're just not as connected.
Mm-hmm. We don't know each other that well.
We don't.
Mm-hmm.
But just think about small little cities like Mayberry, or I think of where I just visited recently, Abington, Virginia. You know, they do pretty well because everybody knows the problems and everybody's connected and everybody comes to the little cookouts, and so the kids have a better chance finding homes there.
Mm. So when it comes to after those first 2 years, and they're looking for foster parents or someone to adopt, then someone in Giles County or Washington County or somewhere in the western part of the state probably gets in touch with someone through social services in another part of the state where there's a child who needs help.
Yes.
And that's a real challenge to have it working, as you were saying, working well statewide.
Right.
Yeah. So you're busy on the speaking tour. Will you be? Are there certain places that she's going to be speaking that are coming up in June and July that you have already in your mind on the calendar that people
Yes.
could get a chance to, or some way they could invite her to speak?
Absolutely, especially if there are some faith-based initiatives. I know that Debbie would welcome the opportunity to speak at anything like that, but we do have the major things that we're doing. First are the collaboration meetings with the other agencies and the nonprofits. But we are having, for example, in Richmond, an awareness event at Pasture Restaurant on May 26th. So that's a great way to bring the community in, and we're actually doing a toiletry drive. So it's really simple to go out and spend $5 on some toothpaste, toothbrushes that we're able to give to some of these children in foster care. And Debbie will be speaking at that, and we'll be talking about the message. But certainly throughout the next month, we will be all over the state having these collaboration meetings, having these awareness events, hopefully working with some of the mayors as well in some of the major cities throughout the state of Virginia. So we have a lot on the calendar coming up for Debbie, and you can check our Facebook and our website, www.connectingheartsva.org, to see some of those events that are coming up.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Well, before time runs out, there may be something else that you had wanted to say that we haven't really asked you about. What else would you want to get out to our viewers around the Commonwealth? Because they'll be seeing this in Southwest, they'll be seeing it in Hampton Roads and Richmond and in the Valley and in Central Virginia, so that it'll be there for them to see. So what should they again hear?
I'm working really hard on awareness. You think about Dave Thomas, who started Wendy's. President Bush came to him and said, just go out and talk about adoption. He was also adopted. And when he was alive, there were pictures of the children all over Wendy's. Do you remember that?
I do.
I do too.
I had forgotten about his being adopted, yes.
And so I'm on a mission to get pictures out. I think pictures are 1,000 words, and it's awareness. Telling people we need this. We really, and again, our churches, if you would help us sponsor a child, and in your flock find a family. You know, I just know that Ericca and I and the other agencies in the state of Virginia is going to make a difference, and we are going to change these numbers, and we are going to find loving families for all of our Virginia children.
And Ericca, what would be your final message?
I would agree with everything Debbie said, and I would just encourage the people of Virginia to get involved in any way that they can in the foster care or adoption arena, whether it is coming to a toiletry drive for a couple of minutes, being a mentor, or thinking about hiring a child that's in foster care or that's been adopted. So any way that you possibly can, whether you have a little bit of time, a lot of time, a little bit of money, or a lot of money, there's a way for you to be able to influence these kids and help us with this issue of finding these permanent loving homes for all of these children that are our future. So.
And I'll close with the words that Debbie was asking me before the show, whether we always did things that were political. And it's a public affairs show, and this is a major public affairs issue that people of the Commonwealth need to know about. So thank you both for being on This Week in Richmond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com.
Alpha Natural Resources, a leader in mine safety and an environmental steward.
Haley Buick GMC in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community.
The Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.